I got interested in tea when I was 7. My mother had one of those selection packs of tea with sort of 24 different teas in it. No one drank them, so I worked my way through them one by one. My name's Andrew Gadsden. I'm the owner of All About Tea. I started it 7 years ago, and so now I sit here surrounded by tea.
My name's Ashleigh and I am a sales assistant on the weekends, and I manage the office during the week.
My name is Slater and I'm a general assistant.
All About Tea is a tea importer and packer and blender.
It's a place to come, have a good perusal, discover lots of new teas. Some you might like, some you might not like so much.
So when I first started the business, plan A was actually to start up a tea-themed cafe. I was very, very interested in tea since the age of 7. For the first 5 or 6 years of the business, we had more customers in Paris than we did in Portsmouth, because all of our sales came to us via the internet.
I'm interested in it, but my original trade is a graphic designer, so Andrew used to be a customer of mine. I used to do some design for him. I fell on hard times, needed a job, and he gave me a job. My
mum actually worked at a tea company when she was in Zimbabwe. I was born in Zimbabwe, and she worked for a tea company, and my dad grew up on a tea and coffee farm, so I kind of knew a little bit about it anyway. Randomly, Andrew approached me in a pub and asked me if I wanted a job.
My favourite type of tea is Portsmouth tea, so I like black teas.
My personal favourite is the Kenyan tea. Obviously I come from Africa, so I was sort of grown up used to that kind of tea, and it's just stayed my favourite.
I find it very difficult to decide what my favourite tea is. I keep changing my mind, you know, I'll go through phases. So I go through a phase when I drink Assam tea all the time, or when I drink Ceylon tea all the time. And one of the privileges of this job is I get to taste different tea every day. The best tea I've ever drunk was a very, very good Assam tea, and you hardly ever see Assams of this type anymore, which are red. They look red in the cup because they're so thick and rich and malty, and they have such extraordinary colour. And I tasted that tea about 4 years ago, and I've never tasted anything as good since. In the old days, every grocer in every town would have produced a tea that was local for that town, and by trial and error they would have worked out what tasted good. Now, it's not just about hardness and softness or acidity or alkalinity, it's about the type of salt which is in it, and we don't understand it totally, but we do know that some teas work well in hard water and some in soft water, and we know that in general you need a better tea for hard water than for soft water. So Portsmouth tea has lots of Assam in it, which is rich and strong and full flavoured, and will give the taste that is necessary so that you can extract the flavour in the hard water. If you can do that, then hard water is great, because it's like drinking a bottle of mineral water every day.
Pour the tea in, all goes into the drum, just give it a spin, and then the tea will come out, all blended up, and that goes in there. And just want this to come out. Heat and seal top of it, keep it nice and fresh, and that's your finished product.
So we buy tea from almost every tea producing country. We operate on a very traditional model, so what we do is no different from what a tea merchant would have done a century ago or longer. We are supplied with samples from the various tea estates that we buy from, which are sent by air to us. We will taste them and decide what we're going to buy, and then place an order. The world of producing tea, the world of the tea planter, is a world that has not changed very much since Victorian times, since British colonial times. And to visit a tea plantation in Sri Lanka or Darjeeling is like stepping back in time to a time when the British Empire was at its height, except that the managers of those estates are now locals, but they still live in what can only be described as palatial splendour. In Darjeeling, transport is still by steam train. It's like stepping back in time.
I generally like tea, so I've not yet found one that I don't like. Apart from the smoky Russian caravan, I'm not a fan of.
I get to drink some pretty dreadful tea as well. I drink a lot of very, very bad tea in the course of tasting teas, deciding what to buy, and a lot of the samples that I'm sent for tasting are no good whatsoever. All of the supermarket teas now, I wouldn't have said this a year ago, but I think all of the supermarket teas now are disappointing at best. I think the worst cup of tea you can drink anywhere is what the airlines serve, because not only is the tea very, very, very cheap, but the water is not hot. So I think you've got to go a long way to find a worse cup of tea than what you get on the airlines.
Dealing with the public can be challenging sometimes, but yeah, that can be a bit challenging. But not all the time, but sometimes.
I love my job, absolutely love it. I'm planning to stay here after university for a full-time position, if they'll have me.
Tea in England, well, it's very traditionally associated with each other. What's interesting though is that, yeah, I think there's sort of, it goes, there's also tea in America as well. People don't see that side of teas everywhere, so we've got a very traditional sort of like fine bone china and like teapots and everything, you know, like that. But I see it from a bigger picture.
I think tea is quite a quintessentially British tradition. Although it's still quite popular around the world, I don't think it's as popular. I think when people think of tea, they think of England.